Welcome to TOneAcademy. In our last sessions, we have seen some of the questions from the percentage concept. Now we will see some more concepts of this same percentage. Now we will see in this session, we are going to see the questions based on the elections and the questions based on salary and all the remaining things. We will see, directly move to the questions. Next, see here. In a big garden, 60% of trees are coconut trees. 25% of number of the coconut trees are mango trees and 20% of number of mango trees are apple trees. If the number of apple trees in the garden is 1440, then find the total number of trees in the garden. This is our question here. See here, if we go with our traditional method, what happens if we go with our traditional method means, see here the garden is having 60% of trees is of coconut trees, right? So what we will see, for example, out of 100 percentage, what they are telling us here, 60% is coconut. Okay, good. Next, 25% of number of coconut trees are mango trees. That means out of the 60%, 25% trees are mango trees. So what I am going to write here, 25% of 60%. 25% of 60%. Why? Because very clearly they mentioned 25% of the number of coconut trees are mango trees. That means what I came to know, 60% of overall trees are coconut trees. Out of that 60%, 25% are mango trees. Next, and 20% of number of mango trees are apple trees. So next, what they are telling is, this is mangoes. They are telling us that 20% of this mango trees. What is the mango trees percentage here? 25% of 60%. Is what? Apple trees. These are apples, and they are telling that this value is equal to what? 1440. This value is equal to what? 1440. That means 20% of 25% of 60% of some x is equal to what? 1440. Is equal to what? 1440 according to the given question. Okay. Now what we will do, this x is 100% this of x, or x are x 100% of x, both are same. So if you solve this x, we will get the total number of trees in that garden. Okay. So this is our traditional method. If we go with our shortcut method, so how we are going to write? 60% means what you will write? 6 by 10 or else 3 by 5 of x. Of this 25% means what you will write? 1 by 4, right? Next, 1 by 4, good, superb. Next, 20% of number of mango trees are apple trees. 20% means what you will write that as? 1 by 5. 1 by 5. This value is equal to what? 1440. See, both are same. Both are same. Here we are writing in words and we are later converting it into fractions. In this case, I am writing it directly. In this case, I am writing it directly. 1/5 of 1/4 of 3 by 5 of x is equal to 1440. So now what happens to this if you observe? So for your understanding, I am writing it once again. 3 by 5 into x is equal to what? 1440 for me. Is equal to what? 1440 for me here. So when you cancel it, what you will get? 3 ones, 3 fours is 12, 8s and zeros, right? Next, x value will become how much? 5 5s are 25, 25 4s are 100. So 100 into 480, 48,000. So the total number of trees in that garden are how many? 48,000. 48,000. See students, this value and this value more or less same. What I have done here is, here I have written in percentage, here I have written directly in fractions. If you are very good in converting percentage to fractions, you will get the answers very quickly. So please try to learn this percentage and fractions relations, which is very, very important for us to solve the problems. Now next, see here. A man spends 40% of his salary on food. Okay, good, superb. 20% on house rent, 10% on entertainment and 10% on conveyance. If his savings at the end of months are rupees 1600, Then what is his salary per month? See, usually how we will find our savings? How we will write the formula for savings? Income minus expenditure, right? This is the procedure to write our savings. Savings is nothing but income minus expenditure. Okay, good. So, really superb. Now, in this case, see here whether they have given values individually or by a mixed value. Definitely they given us individually. So, his income, if his income is 100%, in that his expenditures are what? 40% on food, 40% plus 20% on house rent, 10% on entertainment and 10% on conveyance. Right, these are his expenditures. So, now what happens to this? 100% minus, when you add all these things, what you will get? 40 plus 20, 60, 60, 70, 80. So, 80%. So, his savings will be what? 20% of his income. According to the question, this savings was given as what? 1600. That means 20% is equal to what? 20% of his salary will be equal to 1600. They are asking us his actual salary or total salary, which will be equal to what? 100%. See here students, you can take it as x and cross multiply it. You will get the answer, or else into 5, right? So, simply apply the same concept here. 1600 into 5. You will get here as 8000. So, his monthly income is 8000 and after removing his expenditures, his savings are equal to 1600 rupees here. Okay, good. Next, we will see our next problem. See here, out of the total income, Mr. Kapil spends 20% on house rent and 70% of the rest on household expenses. Please observe here carefully. Please try to understand the difference between the previous problem and this one. In the previous problem, they directly given us the percentage individually. But in this problem, what they are doing? 70% of rest. That means here, out of 100%, if his income is some 100%, he will spend 20%, right? So, now he will be left with what? 80% of income. He will be left with 80% of income. Now, 70% of the rest means now 70% of this 80%. Now, 70% of this 80% means what? After spending 70% of this 80%, he will be left with what? 30% of this 80%. Understood? After spending, or else if you want to write like this, we will write anyway the expenditures only, no problem. He will spend what? 70% of this rest. Now, after spending 20% on house rent, he will be left with what? Or the rest value is 80% of income. This is house rent. Next, he will spend 70% of this on what? Household expenses. So, after spending 70%, he will be left with what? 30%. 30% of 80% of X. Why? Because he will spend 70% on household expenses. So, now he is left with what value? 30% of 80% of X. 30% of 80% of X. So, the same thing, 30% means what? 3 by 10 and 80% means what? 4 by 5 into is X. We do not know what is his X. But this value, this savings, after spending on house rent and other expenses, he will be left with this value, and that value is equal to what according to the question? 7200. This value is equal to how much? 7200. Now, see here, 3 4s are 12, right? So, 12 6s are 72 and 2 zeros. So, X value will become what for me? 50 into 600, which is equal to 30,000, which is equal to 30,000. So, his monthly income is 30,000. His monthly income is here 30,000. Please observe here students, the previous one is direct one and here we are doing the chain like system. So, please be careful. Here the rest after spending on house rent, he will be left with what? 80% of X. In that 80% of X, he is spending 70% on other household things. So, after spending 70%, we will be left with what? 30% of the rest. The rest is actually here 80% of his income. So, 30% of that 80% is equal to what? Some 7200 and his total income became what for us here? 30,000. Next. A person spends 25% of his income on house rent, 20% on the remaining. See here, we will write the same thing. His income is some 100% of income. We don't know what his income was. Okay. He is spending what? 25%. So, after spending on house rent, he will be left with what? 75% of his income. After spending on house rent, he will be left with 75% of his income. And 20% of the remaining part on food. That means, after spending 20%, he will be left with what? 80%. So, now he is left with what? 80% of 75% of income. Understood? This I am writing, always writing the remaining value. Okay. And 10% of the remaining part on traveling. So, if he spends 10%, he will be left with what? 90%. So, 90% of 80% of 75% of X. Okay. Now, he is left with this one now. And the remaining part on traveling, and finally he saves 8100. That means this value is equal to what for me here? 8100. Find his total income. Find his total income. So now what you are going to write here? 90 means 9 by 10, 80 means 4 by 5, 75 means 3 by 4 into his income. His income, actually not I, this X, this income I. So into income is equal to 8100. His income is equal to 8100. So cancel it. What you will get? 9 ones, 9 nines and 2 zeros. Good. 3 ones, 3 300s. Good. Next 4 and 4 will get cancelled. So what is his income now? 10 5s are 50, 15 3s are, sorry, 50 3s are 150 and 2 zeros. So his income is actually 15,000. His income is actually here 15,000. Okay, so please students observe this one. Always I am writing the remaining values here. Out of his 100% income, he is spending 25% on house rent. So he will be left with 75%. Good. Next, of this 75%, he is spending 20% on food. So if he spends 20%, he will be left with 80%. So 80% of that value. Good. Next, 10% of the remaining on traveling. So 10% of this remaining on traveling means out of 100, if he spends 10%, he will be left with 90%. So 90% of the remaining. That value is equal to what? 8100, which was given and in the question itself. So after solving that, what I got here, his income is 15,000. 15,000. Next. Now see here, what is happening with this election concept? See, these elections based on questions based on elections is also very, very important for us. What will happen is, usually some people will enroll for the elections. Good. And after enrolling, everyone will not cast the vote. Okay. Some will cast the vote and some will not cast the vote. Okay. Or else I will write here itself. Some will cast and some will not cast. Out of these casted votes and not casted vote, we will not bother about this, the persons who will not cast the vote. We will take consideration only to the casted votes. Now when it comes to these casted votes, here we will have what? Invalid votes. Right? Some votes will give invalid and we will have valid votes. Valid votes, we will have valid votes. In this, so based on which votes we will decide the winner and loser? Based on the valid votes. We will not consider the invalid votes. So when it comes to this valid votes, here we will have the winner and loser. Winner and the loser. So based on the amount of votes, the amount of valid votes which the candidate got, means who is the winner. He is the winner. Now see here we will use here a word called majority. Under the same concept itself, we hear a word called majority. What is meant by majority? Means the vote difference between the winner and loser. It may be vote count difference sometimes, or they may also tell in percentage. If a person says that a person won by 10% majority, 10% majority means nothing but the winner will get 10% more votes than the loser. 10% more votes than the loser. Based on that, we will decide. That means what I will say here, the winner gets 55% of votes, whereas loser gets 45% of valid votes. Based on the valid votes only, we will tell our majority. Remember this one carefully. Okay, the majority will be set based on the valid votes. See in the questions, if they didn't speak about casted votes or didn't casted votes or invalid and invalid means everything, all the votes enrolled and casted are valid. Remember this one. Until and unless they mention these words, we will not consider them. What happens is, in some cases, directly they will say that in an election 10% votes are invalid. That means directly we will come to this case. We will not bother about whether they are casted or not casted. What we will consider is all the persons who enrolled for that election will cast the votes. There is no discussion about the persons who is not casted the votes. Recently they have added one more thing, that is nota. See here, this nota also comes under valid votes only. Okay. If a question, if they ask about nota means that nota also comes under the valid votes. Remember this one, students. If they speak about nota means definitely the nota comes under the valid votes, but very rarely they are asking, but we should be ready for this question also. Nota is actually considered as a valid vote. In the valid vote itself, we will see that nota as an option. That means he will not vote for these two guys and he will vote for the nota. Okay. So everything is considered as a valid votes. Remember these things very carefully. This is the hierarchy which we will have. Okay. Enrolled votes are the total number of votes. The persons who will cast their votes, from them we will have one more two sets. One is invalid votes and the valid votes. We will not bother about the invalid votes. We will only go forward with valid votes. In that we will have the winner and loser. Now recently they have added one more thing, that is nota. Nota also comes under the valid vote section. Okay, right. Now we will see some questions based on this concept. See here, in an election between two candidates, one got 55% of the total valid votes, 20% of the registered votes were invalid. Right. See here, they didn't speak about the whether they casted their votes or not casted their votes. Directly he spoke about the valid and invalid. So here, very simple, we will see the total and directly we will move to the valid and invalid section. We will not bother about the casted or didn't casted the votes. So valid votes and invalid votes. What he is telling us is 20% of the registered votes were invalid. If 20% of total were invalid, so what is the valid votes percentage here for me? 80%. Valid votes is 80% of total. Remember this one. Valid votes are 80% of the total. Now, the election between one got 55% of total valid votes. That means one got 55% of total valid votes means 55% of 80% of total. Don't be get confused by seeing the word total. Here that is total valid votes. So total valid votes are what? For me 80% of the total or the actual thing. So 55%. See, if winner gets 55% of valid votes, what about the loser? Did he spoke anything about the what we can say? Nota here? No, right? So obviously, if he gets 55% means the loser will get what percentage? The loser will get 45% of valid votes. Why? Because the sum should be equal to 100. So 45% of valid votes is how much there? 80% of total. Okay, this is winner and this one is loser. And in the question they clearly said that if the total number of votes was 7500, the number of valid votes that the other candidate got was. The other candidate means here the loser. The other candidate in this case is the loser. He is telling that the total number of votes was how much? 7500. So the loser got how many votes here? Loser got 45% of 80% of total. 45% of 80% of total. So what happens to this now for me? 45 by 100 into 80 by 100 into, and total is mentioned as in the question itself, what it is? 7500. 7500. So 2 zeros get cancelled, 25 fours are, 25 threes are, 4 ones, 4 20s. Right? 45 6 are, 270 and 0. So the loser will get how many votes? 2700 votes. The loser gets here 2700 votes. Okay, understood? The other candidate in the sense, here he spoke about the winner, right? We need to find the loser votes. So the loser will get here 2700 votes. Next one. In an election between two candidates, 75% of the voters cast their votes. Now see here hierarchy, as I already told you. Total. In this, 75% of total cast their votes. That means what happens to the person who didn't cast? Didn't cast are 25% of total. Okay. In previous question, they didn't spoke about the cast votes or they didn't cast votes. So directly I have taken valid and invalid. But in this case, they mentioned clearly that 75% voters cast their votes. That means 25% didn't cast their votes at all. Next, out of which 2% votes were declared invalid. So which votes you will declare invalid? Definitely the total votes, right? So the casted votes only we will say, right? So out of the 75%, which is 2% of votes were declared invalid. Okay. So 2% of what? Casted votes. So here what we will write once again? Invalid and valid. Invalid were how many? 2% of this casted votes. So 75% of total. When it comes to valid votes, 98% of 75% of total. Okay, good. This is the valid votes count. Okay, good. A candidate got 9261 votes, which were 75% of total valid votes. Now, of this, 1% got 75% of valid votes. That means 75% of 98% of 75% of total. Okay. If one gets 75% means the other gets 25% of valid votes. That is 25% of 98% of 75% of total. And here they given us this value is equal to what? 9261. Find the total number of voters. Okay. He is given us this value and they are asking us to find the total number of voters here for us. So now what happens to this one? This value. 75% means what? Directly. If you were able to write it directly. 3 by 4. 98% means usually you need to write as 49 by 50. And 75% means what? 3 by 4 into total is equal to what? 9261. Is equal to 9261. Why? Because a candidate got 75% of this valid votes. Okay. So now cancel this one. What you are going to get here? If I go with 7 table, 7 sevens are 49. Okay, good, superb. Here what I will get? 1 time. I will be left with 22 means 3 times. Next 2 times and 3 times. Okay. Right. So next what we are going to get here? Out of which 2% of votes were declared invalid. Okay, okay, right. Now, so what will happen for us here? Solve this one. 1 3 3 2 3. We will get there 1 3 2 3. Next 3 table. 3 ones, 3 fours are 12. 4 times 12 and 1. 441. Once again in 3 table. 1 4. What I will get here? 1 4 7. 1 4 7. Next 7 table. 7 ones, 7 21s. So at last total will become what for me here? 54s are 200. 200 fours are 800. 800 into 21. 800 into 21. So what you will get? 21 8s are 168 and 2 zeros. So the total number of votes are here 16,800. So the total number of voters are here 16,800. So if you write in this manner, you will get the answer very quickly and effectively. Okay. So you should know this structure. If you know this structure, easily you will get the answers. Next one. In an election between two candidates, 11 1/9% voters did not cast their votes. As usual, the same story. Total cast their votes and did not cast their votes. Okay, 11 1 by 9. What is 11 1 by 9? We all know. When 100 is divided into 9 parts, each part will become 11 1 by 9. That means 8 by 9 of total will cast their votes. I am directly writing 1 by 9 of total will not cast their votes. Instead of writing it in percentage, directly I am writing it in fractions. 11 1 by 9. Why? Because it becomes easy. Next, 12.5% of cast voters were declared invalid. So here once again 12.5 means what? 1 by 8. So invalid are how much? Invalid are 1 by 8 of 8 by 9 of total. Why? Because 12 1 by 2% voters were declared invalid. So when it comes to valid how much it will become? If 1 by 8 are invalid, valid becomes 7 by 8. 7 by 8 of 8 by 9 of total. Here in this case, I am directly writing the fractions. Instead of writing the percentage, I am writing here fractions. Next, and the winner got 60% of total valid votes and won by 7,000. Now see here, the winner got 60%. And the loser will get how many votes? 40%. Why? Because here they didn't spoke about the nota. If winner gets 60% means obviously the loser will get 40%. Why? Because here there are only 2 candidates. See students, in our questions, in most of the questions, we will see only the election between 2 candidates. We will not go beyond those 2 candidates. So directly one will be winner, the other will be loser. That's it. Okay, 60% of the total valid vote. 60% means what? 3 by 5. So that means 3 by 5 of, what are the valid votes? 7 by 8 into 8 by 9 of total. And they said that, and if won by how many votes? 1 by. 1 by means what? Majority. So the difference between these 2 persons is how much? 20%, right? This 20% is equal to what they are telling us is 7,000. This 20%. So that means what? 20% means what? 1 by 5. 1 by 5 of what are valid votes? 7 by 8 into 8 by 9 of total. Okay, 20% of valid votes is equal to how much? 7,000 according to the given question for us. 7,000. So now please calculate it, what you are going to get. 0 0 get cancels. 7 ones 7, thousands. So total will become what for us here? 45,000 votes. So total there are 45,000 votes for us. So option C. Option C is the correct option for us here. So if you once write, see, directly if you write the fractions, it becomes easy for calculation purpose. Okay, if you are not able to write these fractions, go with percentage. Not an issue. Anyway, at the end, definitely we will convert that once again into fraction to get our final answer. Okay, right. With this, all the questions, different questions from this election topic was finished. We will see in our next class with some other concept. Thank you.